the 15-year-old kid, equivalent of me who watched all of these hip hop films in the 90s, like they should be able to see their own city, Me making my first film, I was like, there's all this pressure to like make a personal story, and I was like, well, this is a personal story, It's like, this is what I've always wanted to see.
Welcome to the AIF 2024 podcast. In this episode, we're speaking to Rez Dahya, the director of Boxcutter. Described as a love letter to Toronto, it takes place over the course of a single summer day, following an aspiring artist who needs to recover his stolen laptop and music ahead of a life-changing meeting with a top music producer. I read in an interview that you wanted to make a hip hop film that kind of redefined what a hip hop film could be. Could you explain a little bit about what you kind of meant by that?
When I pitch the movie to people, right? The first thing they think, they ask is like, is it a comedy? Because they have this strange like idea in their heads of like what a music film is, with a quest, with a rapper, and whatever, and they just think it's like a joke or something, and so it's either that or they think it's like a trauma centered thing with violence and drug dealers and sick single mother and whatever the case may be, right? And I just was like, you know what? Like, there's so many other experiences out there, even specifically in like the music space, and like musicians come from all walks of life. And like those stories in hip hop specifically are real as well, and important stories, and they have been told and they will continue to be told and need to be told. But I just was like, yo, man, like there's other stories, and let's try to dive into one of those, So that's kind of like the feeling that it came from. It's just like knowing people, hearing other stories, and just being like, hey man, let's just try something different, I
really loved the theme of artistic integrity as well. I really feel like it was so core to the main characters and everything, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It was less about let's get rich and famous as fast as possible, and let's make music, but make music on my terms. So I guess as a creative, as a director, I'm assuming that was something that spoke to you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like, it's kind of like, I have a strong belief that, success, like anything in the arts, right? Like success comes when the art comes from a pure place, right? Especially when you're like coming out of like a subculture or like a place that's like, you're not coming from a mainstream place per se, right? So you have to like, the art itself has to be pure and clean, and it has to be like from something that's real, you know what I mean? And if you're going for the radio hit like right away, sure, that works sometimes, if you're that type of artist and you can just be that person that can just like make radio hits, you know what I mean? But that's not going to give you longevity, that's not going to give you like the connection to like, your community, you know what I mean? Like that's not gonna build you a community per se, right? Like, so I think that idea of like, just creating something that's true to you and true to like the small audience that matters to you, right? That can lead to bigger things, because like, that's what we all, long for. Like, we want to learn about other places and other people, and it's like you can only do that if they offer up something authentic, you know what I mean? So it's like you like, I just watched like this amazing film in at TIFF called Suleiman's Story from Paris, from France, and it's just like, they're just making the movie that they want to make for them, for their story, right? For that community, that's that thing, They're not thinking about like what me in Toronto thinks, right? So it's like, yeah, you just gotta make that thing that's true to you, and then it will go. If it's good, if it's great, it will go and it will find people, and then you will get to that bigger success, that commercial success. I mean, that's the idea.
No, it was great. I definitely I really admired the main character for his staying so true to himself when there's a chorus of voices around him offering him opportunities to sell out or maybe try and find shortcuts, and he's relentless in his kind of commitment to his own music, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, like, there's a line too, though, right? Like, it's like you can't just be so internal that it's like a block. You know what I mean? And it kind of like stops you from doing the thing, right? So it's a balance. You gotta kind of find you gotta find the balance and do the dance with yourself and kind of figure it out. So
Definitely.
yeah.
The I thought it was shot beautifully, and I loved the colors. It was very there's a vibrancy to the colors that you captured with like just the way you captured the summer in the city as well. I the lighting was you went for a very naturalistic kind of type of lighting that really worked. Tell me a little bit about that kind of creative process in terms of how you visualize that aspect.
Yeah, well, first of all, I gotta shout out our DP, obviously, James Klopko. He was like just incredible. Um, and we're obviously like a very, very small budget production. So that actually kind of informs us in a way of like what we can do and what we want to do. And so like leaning into natural, like that's kind of all you can do in a sense. So you have to like really lean into it and just like go for it. You know what I mean? And James is just like so good at that. Like, he just, I don't know. It's just he just knows it, and he just got it, and he just was incredible, right? So, the challenges were, again, because it's such a small budget, it's like we didn't get a sunny day every day, and the movie takes place like in one hot summer Toronto day. You know what I mean? So that was challenging, especially for me, because we'd show up on set and it's like overcast or gonna rain, and I'm just like, oh my god, like this movie is like not gonna get done. Like this is not gonna work. And but James, like, I remember one day, it rained in the morning, and we just kind of did our best, and then it cleared up, and we reshot a couple little things, and we kind of just like did what we had to do, and he had to light a certain way to kind of like fake that it's sunny, and like just we did our best with what we had and with the time that we had. But as far as like the sunny day idea and this idea of like a hot summer day in Toronto, like that was like our through line. You know what I mean? It's like, I was like, whatever it is, we just got to make it feel like it's hot, and feel like it's summer. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was challenging. I wish we had the luxury to like, hey, rain day, rain day, rain day. Let's shoot like tomorrow instead or whatever, and just shift things, but we couldn't do that. So we just did the best with what we had.
You did an awesome job. I genuinely felt like the sense of place, and there was that continuity all the way through that kind of framed that, because this is a day. This is all happens pretty much in one day, with with the exception of like the first act, I guess. But one of the things I noticed as well was you did a lot of kind of longer performance-driven takes where the camera would follow and track, and I really liked it, especially. It was really complimentary in the like when there was a cityscape and in some of the environments and things, and I really enjoyed that style. So I wondered, like, what aspect of that kind of shooting style attracted you to it?
Mm. Well, it's like the film is about movement, like it's just like it's a quest. The movie's a quest across the city. So I just kind of felt like that was what made sense for the film. Like we need to be moving a lot. It's a lot of walk and talk stuff. Some running, you know, obviously, like, is this, there's a lot of movement from scene to scene, right? So the whole thing was like, how do we move the camera as much as possible, but intentional, right? So we're not just moving for the sake of moving. Like, we're intentionally following or leading. You know, we're intentionally like showing the background or not. You know, we're intentionally coming in and out of close-ups. And James, that was a lot of James too, just kind of feeling it. You know, like he's a very intuitive camera operator and DP. So we kind of would just show up on the day and kind of figure out like what we want to do. And I gave him the freedom also to just kind of just move around, you know, and he kind of just was listening and feeling and kind of just like interacting. And it was just like really beautiful, you know. So there's a couple of scenes in particular, which we can maybe talk about after too. But the idea of it was like, just kind of that, you know, the film's about movement, you know, and actually we, even the camera choice, you know, that we went with was based on this idea of like, how do we move as much as possible and have the freedom, you know what I mean? And so that decision was kind of made like right at the very beginning. And actually even like choosing James came down to that too, because when I pitched this to like other DPs, like, you know, not all of them were kind of on board, you know, like it's because a lot of them are, because we couldn't afford a Steadicam operator, right? So it's like we needed a DP that was also down to kind of just like hold it and move and kind of do their thing, right? And so James was just like so down and excited to do that. So, you know.
One scene that sticks in my mind is the scene where the two leads, he finally allows her to listen to some of his music, and you were tracking around. It was like kind of like a 360 shot. And I thought it was beautiful because it didn't take away from the performance. It kind of really framed the performance nicely as there was kind of, they were having this kind of breakthrough, I guess, in their relationship.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that one was like a scene decision, you know, like we're at Yonge and Dundas Square, so it's like, how do we just see the kind of size of that and like really show that space, you know? So it's funny, like I had always envisioned that scene as like, you know, panning around 360. And then but I never had mentioned it to James. And then when we got to set, he kind of looked at me and he was like, 360? I'm like, yep. You know, like we kind of just both knew, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of like each scene, it's like, how do we approach it for what it needs, you know, emotionally, and also, you know, summer day vibe, and also what's happening and what are we trying to show, you know what I mean? Like as far as the city, because we shot each location in like a different way, you know?
And that was, you talked about like the film's got a lot of movement, and definitely like the pacing of the film. This film has pace, and it ties into that kind of frantic quest with his kind of the looming deadline for this kind of opportunity that lies ahead of him. Like I put in my notes that like, you know, you build the world and throw us into the narrative within the first 10 minutes. I really liked it because you know, it always kept you going, and you kind of, it really complemented, you know, the emotion the character was living. So I guess that you didn't want to do a film that felt static or anything at all. It was, you know, you obviously intentionally wanted energy, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I just wanted something different from what I see from a lot of like indie films, you know, and that's not a shot. It's just like, we're kind of told like, you know, that our first features need to be this like, you know, very introspective kind of, you know, exploration of yourself as like an artist, you know, and that often leads to a lot of family dramas and just dramas about, you know, trauma and stuff like that, which are again beautiful, important films, but and will continue to be made and need to be made. But for this one, I just want it to be like, yo, I just want to have something that's a bit more fun, you know, and a bit more just easy to watch. And, you know, we're all going through so much crazy shit, like, and the world is, you know, so crazy. And it's just like, I wanted this film to not be, you know, the important thing of like where, you know, you need a reflection of yourself, but rather like an escape, you know, like this one is more like, hey, let's go to the theater and just and have some fun, and but also like feel touched and feel a range of emotions, you know. So starting it, like, it's funny because like we don't really have like an act one, you know, like our act one is like you said, it's super short, you know what I mean? And there's a couple of films that were references, you know, like Tangerine, like by Sean Baker. Like there's no act one, you know, it's like it's just like a scene. It's just like the first opening scene that they have in the donut shop or whatever, and then like you know, the movie starts, right? And so, you know, we were kind of toying with the movie first started even later, actually, you know, like at his workplace, which is like maybe the third scene or something like that. And I was like, nah, man, we need to have something. We need to act one, like even if it's minimal, you know what I mean? So we built just a couple scenes to kind of set up some things and, you know, see the characters a little bit, like, you know, before the quest starts, right? But yeah, I just wanted to keep it moving.
No, I like the pace of it, and I think that yeah, that urgency, and then also the ending. I don't want to give it away in case people are listening to this without having seen the film. Like, you know, that him his own emotional journey, he goes from frantic to then having a lot more retrospect, I guess, it really worked well for me. And the other thing I was going to say was that the quest is also intertwined with like a romance or a blossoming romance. And I thought there was good chemistry between Ashton and Zoe, the two leads. How did you approach casting with this movie?
Yeah, those two are just, man, like they're incredible. And I mean the approach was just pretty standard. You know, it's like casting calls and auditions and chemistry tests, and you know, it's just the thing, you know, we did the thing. Um I would just say that I don't know, I was just we got to the chemistry read test and it was a very, very difficult choice, you know, like it was between Ashton and someone else, and you know, the Zoe Janae's role. I think I had three people, you know, that I was like really trying to decide between, and yeah, you know, we just like when Ashton and Zoe in their chemistry test out, you know, they just kind of came alive in a certain specific way, you know, that I just felt was like the right way to go, you know, and I didn't decide by myself. I mean, you know, Soko, our producer, and you know, like my close friends, you know, like we sent out. I made like test videos, you know, of like the different chemistry reads, and I was like, yo, okay, you know, what do you guys think? You know, so I definitely got a lot of input and but I think we chose well, you know, like it's those two just really came alive. And like because Zoe, you know, Ashton is like an actor, you know what I mean? Like he like lives and dies for this, you know. Zoe is like, this is like her first thing, you know, really. Like she's a singer, you know, she's like a very talented person who's doing like a lot of different things, you know. And so her first couple days, like, you know, you could tell that she was just trying to get her legs, and you know, and she still killed it. But there's a couple of scenes where they are just ad-libbing, you know, they're just like in their space, you know, and they don't even maybe know that they're being recorded, and their chemistry just came alive, you know, and like they just seem like they've been best friends for years, you know. And like when I started seeing that like on set, I was like, yo, this is like magic, you know what I mean? And like I remember saying to Jonah, our sound person, I was like, yo, man, if those two are talking, like be recording, you know what I mean? Because they might say like a 1-2 thing or like a little thing that like I could maybe use, you know. And like and so there was definitely sections where yeah, they're just kind of freestyling and just kind of like just talking and making fun of each other and whatever the case may be. And you know, I was able to use a little bit of that like in the film. So I'm really excited to like for people to kind of fall in love with them, you know. Yeah.
That's amazing. I read as well that you referred to this as like a love letter to Toronto, but I definitely feel like you painted a really vibrant picture of the music scene in Toronto as well, in terms of the characters, the locations, the amount of activity and passion that was going on, and the amount of people taking part in it. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the love story, but also that aspect of the cultural side of things in Toronto.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is also part of the genesis of this whole thing, right? It's like, you know, we've all grown up with so many great music movies, you know, um, and just movies where you just get to know a city, you know what I mean? Like I'm aware of so many cities in the world, you know, because of films. And you know, even though I've never, like, again, I bring up Suleiman's story, like, you know, I've never been to Paris, but it's like between like Midnight in Paris and Suleiman's Story and La Haine and like all these films, I'm like, yeah, I get what Paris is about, you know what I mean? So and so like us in Toronto, you know, specifically talking about like music and hip hop, it's like, okay, Toronto has this incredible hip hop legacy, you know, Canada too, obviously, but if we're talking specifically, like, you know, Toronto's hip hop scene goes back to like the 70s, right? And and now, you know, in the 2010s, 2020s, like literally it's not even like a hidden thing anymore. Like Toronto is like leading the culture as far as music, right? Um, but like there's no films to like echo that, you know? Um, and so it's just like that feeling of, hey man, like we are the 10, 15-year-old kid, you know, equivalent of me who watched all of these hip hop films in the 90s, like they should be able to see their own city, you know? Um, so that's kind of where that came from and was part of the whole genesis of like me making my first film. Was like what I said before, like, you know, I was like kind of racking my brain about, yo, what's my first film gonna be? And like I said, there's all this pressure to like make you know, a personal story, and I was like, well, this is a personal story, you know. It's like this is what I've always wanted to see, you know. Um, it's not personal in the sense that like I'm not a rapper, like I'm not an artist like that, right? But it's personal in the sense that like this is my country and my city and the community and culture that I love and like has given me so much, right? And it's like now I want to be able to say, hey, yo, like this is us, this is you. Like I want to make that movie that I wanted to see as a kid, you know?
No, like as a newcomer to Canada, I definitely felt like I was seeing your vision of what Toronto is and what it means to you. So, yeah, it was good, and you could definitely see that there was nothing about this movie that didn't have. It was oozing with kind of that kind of passion and connection to the place, but also the culture, and I really enjoyed it. Basically,
Thank you, thank you, man. Yeah, it's also like it's been frustrating because it's like, you know, Toronto, Vancouver, you know, like these places get used a lot for other cities, right? Like we all
yeah,
know like how much they get, you know, but it's like it's so wild that like I can only think of like two or three films, you know, where like Toronto is just Toronto, you know. It's insane. And it's like we're like a major city in the world and we lead in culture, and it's like there should be 50 box cutters by now, you know what I mean? It's like and like I know that work is happening. Like there's a lot of filmmakers and there's a whole new crop of people who like are Toronto centric and have a different mentality than from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, where it was like, you know, people just never thought that like Toronto should be like shown on its own, you know what I mean? It's like we have this weird Canadian thing about like, you know, what are other people gonna think, or people aren't gonna care, or you know, like it's like even in Canada it's like they're worried about like people in Vancouver caring about a film in Toronto, you know? And it's like, guys, what are we doing? Like if the story's great, it'll work, you know what I mean? It's like I said, like why do I know all these movies from New York, Paris, London, friggin' Seattle? Like every city shows itself, you know, like filmmakers like show their cities. Like it's so weird that we don't kind of embrace that more, you know, as Canadians. And I know why that is really, you know, there's a lot of factors, but I just think that like as we grow, you know, it's going to just start to happen more and more and more, you know, and I think that's going to be really exciting.
Hopefully you've started a whole new genre.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know about started. Like I said, this work is happening, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just part of it, and you
Part
know,
of a
part
wave.
of like part of a wave.
Yeah,
I hope it'll be a big wave. That's all.
That's awesome. And tell us a little bit about your trip to AIFF, to the Atlantic International Film Festival. What are you looking forward to?
Oh man, well, first of all, I mean it's our world premiere, you know, so I'm really looking forward to just playing the film for a bunch of strangers, you know, like that's because we played it for a bunch of friends, and you know, we actually have a cast and crew screening like tomorrow night, you know, in Toronto. So the people that worked on the film are gonna see it, right? But like haven't played it for like a room full of strangers yet, right? So that's like all this shit I'm talking about, like, you know, if people from other cities and cultures and stuff, like if it, you know, I'm gonna find out on Sunday, like if my thesis is correct, right? So I'm really excited about that. And obviously I'm excited to see Halifax. I was in St. John's. I've been to St. John's, Newfoundland. I've been to Prince Edward Island, but never Halifax. So I'm excited to spend some time there too, and just connect with some people, like the East Coast people, man. They're like so just open, you know, creative, you know, welcoming, you know, and I love the kind of like, it's like there's a vibe. I mean, this was at least in St. John's. I'm sure it's going to be similar in Halifax, where like, you know, it's our home, and like we're proud of our home, you know, like we've been through some shit together type vibe, you know. So I always like to be around like that type of energy, and like people that have like, you know, they've been through some stuff and they're like fighting for stuff, you know. So yeah, I'm just excited to kind of be there and share the film and meet some people, talk to some people. And, you know, I have some more interviews and stuff to do on Friday. So that's going to be nice to kind of just like get the word out. And I'm just hoping for a good screening, you know?
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to hopefully bumping into you at the festival. And good luck with the screening. I'm sure is going to go fantastic, and you'll enjoy the buzz afterwards as well.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to you seeing like the final color and, you know, the sound and everything, because you probably saw like a rough cut, right, or like an unfinished.
There were no
cut,
credits at the end or anything. It was
yeah.
But it didn't take away from it for me, so don't worry.
Okay, cool, man, cool.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I appreciate the time, man. This is really nice.
Thank you for listening to the 2024 Atlantic International Film Festival podcast. You can find out more about the events and book tickets by visiting atlanticfilmfestival.ca. I've been Rhys Waters. Now go watch a movie.